Come down from the carriage. We're going to have some refreshment before we continue our journey.
Ianthe gazed down at Gervaise's outstretched hand and shook her head. No, thank you. I'd rather stay where I am.
It wasn't a request,
he said, his tone of voice menacing now.
Either you jump down by yourself or I'll pull you. And I won't be gentle, I can promise you that.
Ianthe glared at him, but realised she had no choice. He wasn't as big as the Marquess by any means, but he was certainly stronger than her, and she had no doubt he'd carry out his threat without any hesitation. A quick glance around showed her that there was no one in the vicinity whom she could call on for help, and perforce she must do his bidding. She gritted her teeth and jumped. Before she had time to remonstrate, he grabbed her hand in an iron grip and dragged her into the tap room of the inn. Ianthe recoiled at the musty smell inside, a combination of tobacco smoke, stale ale and food, and overwhelming body odour. Half a dozen men were lounging about, but no one paid much attention to them apart from the landlord, who came sidling up, looking anxious to please.
A private parlour and be quick about it, Gervais ordered. Of course, straight away. If you would follow me, please.
The slovenly man led them down a narrow corridor and into a tiny room at the back of the inn. It was shabbily furnished and smelled as if the window hadn't been open for years. Ianthe almost gagged and tried to turn in the doorway, but Gervais didn't let go of her arm and pulled her through with a vicious tug at her wrist.
Bring some victuals, please, landlord. And ale for myself and wine for the lady.
I don't want, Ianthe began, but Gervais turned on her, and the words died in her throat. There was such menace in his eyes, she physically recoiled from him and stumbled backwards. The back of her legs collided with a chair, and she sat down abruptly.
That's better,
Gervais muttered, and slammed the door shut after the obsequious man. What do you want with me? Ianthe whispered, although she feared she knew only too well. She couldn't believe her own sister had colluded with such a man to engineer her downfall. There could be no doubt about it. She'd seen the triumphant glint in her sister's eyes.
You'll find out in due course. We'll be staying here until it's dark, but for now all you have to do is sit quietly and not make a fuss. Is that understood? If I hear so much as a tiny protest out of you, or a cry for help, you'll be very sorry.
Ianthe nodded. She understood exactly what he was saying, and, for the moment, it behoved her to follow his orders. Meanwhile, she must try to find a way to escape. She simply could not let this happen to her. Not now there was so much at stake.
I'm going to the tap room for a while. You ought to stay in this room and not budge so much as an inch,
Gervais told her, after they'd partaken of the tasteless meat pie and soggy vegetables brought by the landlord. Gervais had grumbled about the fare, but ate heartily nonetheless, whereas Ianthe only picked at it and left most of her portion on the plate. She didn't reply, since she had every intention of trying to escape the minute he left the room, but he didn't seem to notice. She soon found out why he had so carelessly left her on her own. When she opened the door a crack, she came face to face with Gervais's tiger, a small youth who nevertheless looked strong enough to catch her should she try to dart past. He grinned at her in a leering way that didn't bode well. "Going somewhere, are you?" he asked, and chuckled when Ianthe retreated back into the shabby parlour and slammed the door in his face. She paced the room, which was only about 10 steps in either direction, muttering to herself, "Think, woman, think. There must be some way." While she walked, she took stock of the room's contents, and her eyes alighted on the bottle of wine on the table, which remained largely untouched. It didn't look like the sort of wine she normally drank, and was no doubt vinegary, but an idea came to her, and she began to smile to herself. Grabbing the bottle, she poured most of the contents onto the meagre fire, which was only spluttering anyway, and the rest into Gervais's empty ale tankard.